morning to you, our wonderful viewers, and welcome to the Idea Morning Digest right here on Idea TV. And today is the 18th of March 2026. My name is Cynthia Passy, and good morning.
Good morning, Cynthia.
I'm not alone, but I know that I'm not alone.
You're never alone.
The viewers know that I'm not alone today.
You're never alone. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Wally. So we're glad, first of all, that you're starting your morning with us, and we have a fantastic lineup for you this morning. First up, you'll be seeing the latest headlines that's on across the headlines, and later on you'll be seeing the discussion segment. We'll carry you through the discussion segment. We'll have a senior in-house analyst join us to come give us a long perspective and provide insight and context that goes beyond the surface of the matter we'll be talking about. And next, you get to see what's trending. We will explore what is happening on our social media platforms, what is capturing public attention this morning. But before that, let's see the headlines we'll have or bring your way today. Okay, the first headline, the first story rather will bring your way today is CREDICORP launches Fly Now, pay later for domestic travel. KADUNA ABUJA train incident linked to captain failure, says NRC. And NELFUND disburses over 206 billion naira in student loans nationwide. And lastly, we will bring into you that MAURITIUS launches world's first. With the show proper. You stay with us.
Continuous Threat Exposure Countermeasure, CTEM. CTEM tools enable organizations to continuously monitor and address vulnerabilities in real time. This proactive approach helps businesses stay ahead of cyber threats and comply with security standards. While CTEM systems are improving cybersecurity, managing them can be resource-intensive. Sectors like finance, healthcare, and government are adopting these tools to protect sensitive data.
Okay, it's good to have you back on the show, and if you're just joining, this is Idea Morning Digest. And the first story we have here, the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, also known as CREDICORP, has introduced a Fly Now, Pay Later scheme to make local air travel more accessible. The initiative was announced yesterday, and allows eligible Nigerians to book domestic flights and repay the cost over time instead of paying upfront. Under the scheme, developed in partnership with Visaro and Alert Microfinance Bank, customers can secure tickets by paying 30% upfront with the balance spread across 3 monthly installments. The repayments are interest-free, offering flexible financing at the point of booking. CREDICORP says the program is designed to expand access to consumer credit and ease travel costs as part of broader efforts to improve financial inclusion. The corporation, which has disbursed over 37 billion naira in credit within 1 year, continues to roll out similar initiatives targeting different groups across Nigeria. Well, this is what I don't know what Nigeria CREDICORP is doing here. I think it's less about travel. I'm just looking at the Nigeria's relationship with credit. With credit, and I have a little concern about this because if we want to be honest, Nigeria is still largely practicing the pay before you go system, more like the carry go. How do they used to, carry cash and carry economy? I think we still practice that heavily, but because people don't trust credit systems, and we know what is happening with all of these loan and how do they call them? This loan sharks and whatnot, and we know that a lot of people do not still trust on institutions like this. So the move is almost like I would say a behavioral pattern, because I'm just thinking if Nigerians are going to borrow responsibly, because we've been having that issue for a while now. If Nigerians are going to borrow responsibly for services, especially like flights. Now I think this also sounds because when people hear of it, it's going to make some people happy, because it sounds like sort of exciting rather on the surface, but it means more Nigerians can now fly, more Nigerians can now pay for everything upfront and then you can pay later. But if we want to be honest, what stands out to me here is not even about the travel angle. It's the quiet normalization of, consumer credit culture in Nigeria and how it is building up, just like I started saying, because for a long time now, Nigerians have operated largely on a cash and carry system. So you pay for what you can afford, but now it almost seems like you are paying for something, and then it almost seems like, let me even put it, that Nigerian Credit Corporation is Consumer Credit Corporation. What they are doing here is more like they are encouraging people to, live slightly above their income. Because even the inclusion they talk about, if we look at it very well, they say 30%. Once people get comfortable with that, not even everybody can afford that 30%. And then even if people want to get comfortable with the 30%, I'm thinking of spreading the rest. The next step, when we spread the rest, how are you going to get the money to pay for it? What if you don't have the money? How are they going to, get the money back? And this issue about building this credit culture in Nigeria, I'm very worried about it, because the next thing you see is start translating into other aspects of livelihood, other aspect of Nigeria economy, and it's going to build up that credit system. So it's on one side it is positive because it's going to build our credit database and our credit system in Nigeria. But on another hand, I'm looking at how people are going to default, what structures are being made in place to recover money in cases of default. And I think well, if we want to say, at the end of the day, that's why I say it's not bad entirely, because we've seen other countries, practice this. The US thrive on credit, but the difference is structure. And I still go back to structure, because Nigeria's income is very unstable for so many people at this point in time. We're battling with so many things. Inflation is very unpredictable in this part of the world. So the risk here is that people may take commitments that they cannot, sustain, or they cannot afford to pay later in case something shifts. What if you have you lost your job, or take for instance now, fuel price has gone up without people even expecting it. Even if people expected it, but it can just go and increase any point in time. So in cases of these incidents, what are people going to do? What are they going to, how are they going to recover monies back? But I think altogether it's a good it's a good development, but we just need to ensure that we put our credit structure in place, and because sustainability at the end of the day is what I'm looking at.
Indeed, sustainability is quite the key there. But if we look at the credit system in Nigeria, it seems that even the word itself has gained momentum in the last 3 years that this administration has come into power, where most Nigerians, as we do understand it, have been plunged into extreme poverty, and people can no longer outrightly afford most of the things that we can get. So prior to the last 3 years, people can always book their flights on 2 ways, to and fro, less than 100K within the country. But now we're seeing it even within the country. At peak period last year, we saw that it has even extended to about 600,000 naira just to get a return ticket within the country. Even the regulatory agency was saying perhaps they need to look into that to ensure that people are adequately and favorably charged, and they're not exorbitantly being billed for something that should be like a normal transportation system in the country. And if we're seeing this, just like you mentioned, it's a welcome development for the country that we're building our credit system. It is what developed societies do, especially societies that run the exact economic system that we do, that it is also mostly determined by the market forces in the country. It is also determined by the wages that you collect at the end of the month. And right now we're saying that people's salary can no longer cater for things as little as transportation, where people have to then say pay, use now and pay later, or fly now and pay later. Perhaps we'll say drink water now and pay later. Who knows what is going to get to in the future? So that's the concerns that people are having, that most people, while we're seeing, because when there are challenges, people like this or different agencies will bring up solutions or different other interventions that will see it as development, will see it as innovation, will see it as economy also advancing and picking up with other advanced economies in the world in terms of their own operational standards. But what we are not seeing the most is that most Nigerians are not able to afford the basic things such as transportation within the country, not even outside of Nigeria. So that calls into question of the validity or the intention behind this program. While I believe it's good, it also gives people access to affordability. Perhaps your salary is maybe 400k or 300k per month, or even let's say 100k, and you need to travel outside of your state. We understand how the issue of insecurity is very, very intense right now. So it's very difficult for somebody to travel from one state in Nigeria to another state without thinking about, do I have ransom money? So why don't I just pay for, use this scheme that allowed me to pay back in the next 3 months to get that travel opportunity done within the time frame that I wanted to get done. So those are the benefits that people will get at the end of the day: affordability, availability, and a smooth, fast system that allows them to commute from one part of the country to another. But you've mentioned quite holistically about the challenges that may arise from this, about the issue of people being, defaulting and not paying up because of genuine reasons. Perhaps they lose their job, perhaps they are unable to, perhaps they become incapacitated, or they die. Do they get that from their estate? Do they also get their money back from their investments that they do have in the country? So those are areas that we need to look into while we're trying to see what exactly how this will materialize in the next coming months. And the grace period of 3 months, I also believe, while it's interest-free, I think it should extend beyond 3 months, let's say 6 months, because the salary that people are getting in Nigeria is not enough for them to be able to pay back that exorbitant amount of for airfare in the next 3 months, because they're paying 30% upfront and 70% is where they have to spend spread within the next 3 months. So those are areas that needs to be called into question and see how exactly they intend to implement that when they face with such challenges.
30% not still too high? Is it 30% not still too high?
To pay
and they're saying inclusion. I don't know how many people can still afford that 30%. It almost seems like it's still for the middle class or people that have the money to pay for it. Low-income earners in Nigeria, I don't think they can still afford that 30%. But that's
and the majority of Nigerians are in the low-income
rank, or should I put your status, or how do they call it? But then let's see the next story we have here. The Nigerian Railway Corporation says an apparent coupling failure caused the train incident in the Kaduna-Abuja corridor on Monday, leaving 26 passengers and crew with varying degrees of injuries. The interim report was signed by Managing Director Kayode Opeifa. According to the report, the KA2 service departed Rigasa at 7:15 in the morning and later added an extra locomotive at Jere to improve operations before continuing its journey. The incident happened at about 9:16 in the morning near Asham station, where a loud bang was heard as parts of the train made contact. The NRC says the impact was likely due to a fault in the couplers connecting the locomotive and coaches, leading to a possible separation. No coaches derailed, and the train resumed movement after damaged components were detached, arriving at Idu station with a delay of 38 minutes. Now, I think this is it is where this gets a bit concerning, because when the NRC attributes an incident to something like a coupling failure, it's more than it. I'm looking at it beyond technical failure here. It's about our maintenance culture, because coupling systems don't just fail out of nowhere. These are components that show that they have either been overused, they have worn out, over time. It means that they have not carried out, proper maintenance. They do not even carry out proper maintenance on this facility. So I think the question we should be asking now is, what was the inspection schedule for this? Because I know that before planes, trains rather take off, they usually carry out a maintenance check for them, and then they flag them to move. So what was the inspection schedule like for this one? Was anything flagged before the trip? Did they show that anything was wrong before, they say, okay, will flag them to move. So because if we want to take a step back and look at this, the Abuja Kaduna rail line is not, it has become a very symbolic area. It has become a very symbolic place after the insecurity on that that corridor. And now that place has been positioned as a first of all, when it was brought about, people positioned it or viewed it as, you know, a safer alternative to road travel, especially because of insecurity issues and whatnot. And then there became very symbolic, still because of insecurity issue, because it was the point of target for most of these bandits and insurgents. But so every incident that happens in this place, what people people don't take it lightly and lightly. People don't take it as a minor issue. It chips away that public confidence, because that area is an area of particular concern, if I should even call it that. Now, I do, first of all, I do acknowledge the fact that no coaches derailed and the train is still, the train still completed its journey, which suggests some sort of, how should I call it, level of reliance or resilience rather on in the system. And that's important because it means that the design isn't entirely fragile. Even if an incident occurs, it can still at least carry people to where they are going. But we shouldn't normalize manageable failures. We should learn that our transport systems are supposed to be predictably safe, not just lucky. Because in this case, I'm seeing it as, oh, it's a case of luck. They were just lucky that it didn't get worse than it's, you know, worse than we have seen. And I'll just say that Nigeria often responds well after, you know, an incident has already occurred. After this kind of incident, what should follow is investigation. Investigation should happen. Statements should be released. Let people understand, because people are going to embark on that mode of transportation next time. So let people understand what went wrong, what has been done about what went wrong, if at all anything went wrong. But I think we just need to learn, move from that preventive, reactive maintenance culture, that reactive engineering culture, to a more preventive engineering culture. Because all of this routine, boring discipline checks and all of these things doesn't work well in Nigeria again. And I think it separates, I think that's what separates, how should I call it, the system that improves improves from us not making the same mistakes again. But what do you have to say?
Interesting. Just it was mentioned that it was a coupling failure that led to this incident that we saw at the Abuja Kaduna rail line. And can I say that transportation is one of the key areas that the government needs to really be very, very observant with when it comes to a lot of incidents that has happened within that route for a number of times, when it comes to sabotage on the system, when it comes to also issue of banditry, kidnapping, and also insurgents trying to sabotage the rail tracks to kidnap people, or to cause catastrophes such as many casualties that we've seen, many wounded in some instances, or even dead. So those are areas that the government needs to look at to note that the rail's transportation system is one of the critical means that Nigerians have had to resort to because of a problem, and that problem is the problem of insecurity when it comes to Kaduna, Kano, Abuja expressway, because most Nigerians' lives are threatened based on the danger that is posed by insurgent groups or different bandits affiliated organizations that are committing a crime on that way. So most Nigerians have resorted back into the rail system. Perhaps that's one of the reasons that system is being congested, or one of the reasons why there are no adequate people there to ensure that proper maintenance has been carried out. Because just like you've rightly mentioned, that this cannot happen without a warning. It couldn't just have happened out of the blue. If there were a proper maintenance structure to ensure that all the rail tracks are fine, all the systems that need to ensure smooth commuting is also well put in place. And lastly, while we're trying to understand that this has happened, no lives were lost and minimal casualties were recorded, what are we going to do next? What are the investigations that are going to be carried out? Who is going to be punished? Which relevant agencies needs to come on board to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Because usually when things happen like this, we just sweep it under the carpet and say, oh, thank God nobody died. Thank God nobody lost their leg. Thank God nobody lost their eyes. We just always thank God for most of the things that happen in this country, while we neglect the human error that should have been adequately catered for, that would prevent such happenings in the first place. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. How are they going to ensure that the investigation carried out is free and fair and devoid of any interference by any staff members or any political authority that might have interest in this system? And we should also look beyond the common error that could have caused it, because this, I believe, should be part of the preliminary reports that we're receiving. An extensive investigation should be done to also not rule out the issue of sabotage, because we've seen this happen time and again on that corridor. There are other rail tracks in the country that do not experience such a catastrophe or such events happen on such a rail track. So we need to look at it holistically, so that we do not rule out the important things that should actually guide us to prevent future occurrence. So those are the areas that I feel should look at. And lastly, it also erodes customers' confidence or commuters' confidence, because if you've seen, there has been sabotage by terrorists. There has been sabotage by people who want to cut away with the rail tracks as well. Just, they call them babampola. What do you call them?
Scavengers.
Yes, scavengers. But I mean, for our local colloquial, babampola is what we call them. So they just go to those rail tracks, they cut them away, or people who genuinely want to just sabotage the system to ensure that it doesn't work. So we've seen many such incidents happen. So that's why we should not discount any possibility where an extensive investigation should be done to ensure that people's lives are protected, because people will become more and more weary, and when they can't be able to afford this, they can't be able to go on the road for the fear of being kidnapped and looking for ransom. They have to come back to this buy and pay later, fly and pay later that we mentioned earlier. So those are different areas that we need to ensure that we're not pushing people harder into more burden on their shoulders where they cannot be able to afford.
Okay. The next story we have here, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund says it has disbursed more than 206 billion naira in student loans to over 1.1 million beneficiaries across 270 tertiary institutions nationwide within 3 months of its launch. The scheme, introduced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has received over 1.7 million applications since May 2024. Officials say 128.84 billion naira was paid directly to institutions for tuition, while 77.45 billion naira was given to students as upkeep allowances. Speaking yesterday, Managing Director Akintunde Sawyer said the initiative aims to ensure that no eligible student is denied education due to financial constraints. The fund also confirmed continued application growth and assured strict monitoring to prevent misuse. Supporting the program, the Tinubu Media Support Group described the scheme as a major step in expanding access to higher education, noting that repayment will begin 2 years after national service, subject to employment. I think this is about, I'm just asking what will happen in 5 years' time. Let me even start with that question, because student loan and systems are not judged by how much they give out. It's judged by how much comes back after all. So if we want to look at the structure, first of all, the structure tied to Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policy is tied to Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policy direction, because the repayment after NYSC and employment, that's what it says. But I think that's fair, but that's only when we have it on paper. It is fair. But if we want to look at it in practical terms, we know that the employment landscape in Nigeria, we know the youth unemployment is high, and underemployment are still major issues in Nigeria. So I'm just thinking of the risks here, because if graduates don't secure jobs after, not just jobs, because they might have something that is putting food on their table or putting small change in their pockets, if they cannot secure stable jobs, stable paying jobs, repayment delays becomes sort of widespread, and once that happens, the funds starts to depend more on what the government will do, more on government injections rather than repayment. And that's where we start hearing debt servicing, or we are looking for money, borrowing here and there to pay our debt. And if in turn that's how systems get strained. So when this what happens then? That's what I'm asking. I have so many questions around this ever since this rule. That what happens? Do we have a repayment? Do they have a strict? Are they enforcing a strict repayment structure? What is the structure like, if there is? Do we? I want to understand the whole after the whole loan has been disbursed, and because that's where policy becomes very tricky. Because it's not just to bring, you can bring beautiful policies, you can bring out beautiful initiatives, but what happens next? It's always about sustenance. Sometimes it's not even about implementation. With this case, it's not even about implementation. It has already been implemented. According to them, it is successfully moving. But after this, what will happen? Because first of all, let me even give credit where it is due, because this is one of the first attempts in Nigeria to institutionalize students' financing at a very large scale. Because before now, our education funding is mostly dependent on family-based. People go back home to get money, or mostly scholarship-based. But this time we are now seeing that what is happening in some advanced countries is now happening in this part of the world. But before we roll out things, we have to think, we have to put structure in place to ensure that this thing is successful, because anything at this point in time can alter this. And what can halt this most especially is that unemployment I have mentioned. And another angle that people are not talking about enough is that this could even gradually change how universities behave. We saw a video of the nursing student, which state is it, Nsukka or I've forgotten the university, that came out and is complaining about the increment in school fees, and we saw how it's tripled or fourpled, if there's anything like that. So I think institutions can when institutions know that students are being paid, they might use the opportunity to just say, okay, students are not getting a more students are getting where they can, students now have rather where they can get money from, and now institutions may now see this as a more reliable way to get funding back for themselves too as well, and they'll start increasing school fees. That's why we start hearing increment of school fees aggressively and ridiculously, and I think that's something policymakers need to watch closely. We need to follow that closely. And talking about the scale of the scale, over 1 million beneficiaries, I think that is huge. That is massive, and that's almost like you're funding the population of a small country. I think I can say the government has done so well with that, trying to accommodate that large amount of students. But managing that kind of financial exposure is what I'm also looking at, because it requires strong data systems. When this thing first rolled out, I think in 2025 last year, students came out and complained about not being able to access the scheme or the system, not being able to. They said a whole lot of things, that there was a lot of procedures required of them to go through or pass through before they can get these funds. And I also think they should think about identifying, tracking anti-fraud measures, because all of those things will still come into the conversation. Also another thing I want to give credit to is the fact that they were able to split the credit with tuition fees and upkeep, because those are two different things entirely, and that shows that to an extent, we understand that education is not just about the school fees, it's also about upkeep. People need to survive even while they are studying. But I just think that this scheme should be paired with more aggressive, job creation at the end of the day, because it should be paired with more aggressive job creation pipelines, because giving loans without strengthening our employment structure, giving loans without strengthening our employment pathways is like we are building a bridge that will burn later, by ourselves. So I think government should get our employment should make sure that there are jobs available, stable jobs with stable income for young people after school.
Well, indeed. First of all, this is a commendable action by the federal government, because when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was during his campaign elections that led to his being elected for the presidency in 2020, was it 2023 general elections, he made mention about how he intends to bring in a student loan, which will enable education to be accessible and affordable for every Nigerian that is not that can be able to pay outrightly for their own tuition fee. And when he came in, he tried to institute this, he tried to bring up different ideas, and there were many criticisms from different quarters about how it's going to affect students, what exactly it's going to cost, and finally we see there's been a rule that's over 200 billion still being added to it right now. So that's a welcome 206 billion in particular being disbursed to different schools, higher institutions in Nigeria, and also to the students as well, because aside from the school payments that they have to pay, they also need to have something for themselves to ensure that they are able to keep up with all the daily necessities and needs that they have to carry out while they are learning in school. But the repayment plan, which has been one of the most pressing concerns for most parents or even the students themselves, is about access to job after the education. And most Nigerians are worried that you're pushing these young people into debt at a very young age. If we look at the instances of how advanced countries have implemented this and how it is affecting most of the youth population, or even people that have become of age, people in senior citizens as well, are still paying their student loan at 60s and 70s because it continues to compound. While we are learning that ours is interest free, and also the validity to pay starts from 2 years after your NYSC or 2 years after you're gainfully employed by any company, or if you're self-employed as well, and if you have a reputable business that you're making money by your own, you can also start to repay your loan back by yourself. Well, this is very, very important for the country because it would enable people to access education, just like the students you mentioned about, and a number of different schools as well who have skyrocketed the school fees and prices when it comes to academic activities. This will also enable students to ensure that they are able to cater for that while they're focusing more on the education that they want to receive in the country. But while we're solving one problem, we should also note that we are trying to create another one, because every solution in some ways is a problem. At the end of the day. You're solving the problem of them focusing on their education and worrying less about the payment that they need to make, while at the end of the day, how do you ensure that they pay back? How do you ensure that they are not overburdened and they're not overwhelmed by this responsibility when they are out looking for a job? And also, how do you ensure that the system itself is not manipulated? How do you also ensure that the bulk of our citizens who really need this money are also getting it? Because nepotism is very prevalent in our country, where you see people who have influence or who have authority in those spaces putting in their people people that they know that are in schools or in other higher institutions that they want to also support in some ways or another, while neglecting the people that might have all their papers ready and try to apply to get it done. So those are the questions that we need to have ironed out and resolve. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is somebody who seems very dogged when it comes to pursuing his own stated goals. And this has been implemented, this has been instituted as well, but we need to see what exactly is the long and sustainability plan for it after his administration. Should he be re-elected or should he not be re-elected in the next coming election? What happens to this system? Is this system also being institutionalized or also being put into our own constitution, or the constitutional frameworks that gather our own higher education system in Nigeria? How do we ensure that the National Assembly is also, so that it wouldn't look like an executive responsibility alone? How can we bring in the National Assembly to ensure that this is also implemented and instituted into our constitution, so that it won't be a pet project of an administration?
Exactly.
Because we've seen many administrations will come and go, and such pet projects would be swept aside by another administration that has a different priority. And that's why we talked about the coherence of our national strategy in this country. We do not seem to have a national plan in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years that is being followed. We have them in paper, but our Vision 2030, Vision 2015, Vision 2020, now Vision 2050, what exactly are we getting out of it? So we need to continue to have that critical conversation with ourselves to ensure that these students will not be left stranded should this administration go in the next year or in the next 4 years.
Very well said, Wale. Let's see the last story we have here. Mauritius has launched the world's first pre-commercial grid-connected wave energy farm, a 2-megawatt pilot project led by French developer Citons under a national renewable energy program. The project, developed in partnership with local group Taylor Smith and connected to the national grid through the Central Electricity Board, will test the reliability and performance of wave energy technology in real ocean conditions, with plans to expand capacity to 10 megawatts. Officials say the initiative aims to harness the country's strong wave resources to build clean energy innovation as global interest in wave power grows, with estimates placing its potential at nearly 30,000 terawatt hours annually. I think this is very important, but very, very important, and it shows us where the world is heading, and not even where, it shows us where the world is headed to, because Mauritius is a small island, first of all, if we want to consider the nation. It's a very small island nation, and it doesn't, have much as even Nigeria has. Nigeria has oil reserves, we have land mass, we have the population as well, and this is what Mauritius do not have yet. We've seen how Mauritius has consistently experimented or are consistently experimenting with, forward-thinking innovations, forward-thinking initiatives, forward-thinking projects, and we're seeing that here in this case too with the wave energy, connected to the grid, and that tells us something about priorities too. You don't have to be a big nation before you can, create big things. You don't have to even start big before you can create big things. You can start small. And if we want to even look at wave energy, first of all, wave energy is not even yet mainstream anywhere in the world, and Morocco is taking to their heels to do this. Even in advanced economies, you can't find wave energy in mainstream. It's still somehow experimental in all of those advanced countries, but we see that Mauritius is positioning itself early and saying, when this becomes viable, we want to already understand it before it even becomes viable, before it even comes into mainstream use. And I think that's strategic thinking, that's forward thinking, and that's what we push for. Now, if we want to even bring this home, because I like to sometimes compare some, things happening all over the world with Nigeria, especially things happening in African countries like Nigeria. Nigeria has one of the longest coastlines in Western Africa. I don't want to call the wrong figure, but because I read this, I think in GRR some weeks back, and we have wave activity too, if we want to even consider that. But our energy conservation is still dominated by, we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about the electricity issue, still dominated by diesel generators, still dominated by fuel subsidies. We're still talking about unstable grids, which is not supposed to be so. So I feel like the gap here is not even resources. It's about long-term thinking and investment, just like we mentioned yesterday. It's not that we do not have the potential. It's not that we do not have the resources. We have all of these things. We have the initiative. We have everything. But the problem is investment and experimentation. And this is what Mauritius is doing. It's not yet viable, but they are starting now to experiment with wave energy, which is very, very interesting. Another thing I find very interesting about this is that people will take it as, oh, but it's just 2 megawatts. 2 megawatts, I understand that's 2 megawatts is very small. I mean, it can power maybe an estate. It can even power the whole of an estate in Lagos. Let's just say it can power the whole of an estate in Lagos. We understand that 2 megawatts is very, small. But that is the point. That is what we talk when we talk about innovation. I remember we were talking about this in the podcast, that innovation starts small. Innovation starts with identifying your necessity, identifying what is necessary, identifying what is in need, what is in demand, and then you think of ways to start. You mustn't even supply it immediately, but you think of ways to start, supplying it. So I think this is where it starts. It is, controlled before even it gets to the scale at mass, production. And I think that's where African countries too also struggle. Going back to the whole of Africa, this is where African countries struggle. We struggle with big things. We always want it to be big. We always want immediate impact. We always want immediate action. We always want immediate impact projects. But technology development doesn't work that way. Technology development starts with tests and trials. And that is where we often fail. That it requires patience, it requires testing, it requires sometimes even failure, and then we restart again. So what I make of this at the end of the day is that, energy is not just about solving blackout like we're complaining about with the electricity issue. It's about preparing for what is to come, preparing for the long term. So I think this is a good initiative altogether, and we want to see, let other African countries even, copy this.
Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and with the world facing such uncertainty that we've seen now in the global energy market, I think now is the time where the saying even matter the most for most countries in Africa, that we need to think beyond access to fossil fuel in powering our own energy source or for energy consumption on the continent of Africa. We need to think beyond that and look into renewable alternatives that can help us. We talked yesterday about solar power. We talked yesterday about wind. We talked yesterday about other several alternative sources, even waste that can be used to generate energy at the end of the day. So those innovations are there. Some of them don't even need you to invent them. It just needs you to implement them within your own country. And we're seeing countries that are putting this at the forefront of their own national priority. Look at what is happening now in Cuba, where the country is entirely plunged into darkness because it has been blockaded by the United States, and oil cannot be able to oil is not being imported into the country because the country is facing an extensive blackout due to the blockade by the United States. Should the country have access to this technology or have access to extensive solar network or even wind power, they will continue to generate electricity and power their own economy. So we need to begin to think about the future. We need to begin to think about the challenges that might occur that are unforeseen right now. So we shouldn't be more reliant on one source, even if we're focused still on gas energy source or even coal or even dams. We should spread our wings to different sectors, and that's why we're talking about being able to decentralize the process, the system. When a system is decentralized, you see that it is not only one focus area that we're going to be putting our attention on. The Aso Rock, just like we've mentioned yesterday, has decentralized their own system. They're getting what is it called? I mean, what people call NEPA for their own facility, and when they don't get it, they run on diesel. And if diesel is not available, they have the solar for them. So we should have a multiple alternative that we can connect to our national grids to supply that electricity to different parts of the country. And using this wave system, just like you mentioned, it's not a new technology per se, but instituting it and also having it as part of their own energy source area is really, really important, especially countries that have a coastal area like Nigeria. We see most of our own coastal areas being overrun by erosion or even being taken by the ocean. These are some of the things that we can use to ensure that we get the benefits of this current that we have when I mean current, I mean the wave that we were able to that we have naturally on the continent of Africa. So all of these are different areas that we have touched light on to say that we need to diversify our strategy. We need to diversify our energy source in the country, and also to decentralize the process. If one state can say, I want to invest in this and get it, you can empower, let's say, a city like Lekki or a city like a VI or a city like other areas. When I mean, for coastal states in Nigeria, Port Harcourt as well, to invest in something like this, it enables them to at least reduce the burden when it comes to the national grid in the country. And that's the area that we really, really want to see state governments and local government as well to put more invention in, and also for our own research institutions, what can we do better? How can we ensure that we have this? Because what we are seeing right now is that we're saying that, oh, Nigeria is looking at alternative source, but people are getting alternative source primarily by themselves. It is not a government strategy that is bringing that to bear. So we need to ensure that we have a holistic national strategy to ensure, even state strategies as well, to ensure that generation of electricity is decentralized beyond what we have right now.
Okay, very well said, Wale. I think that's the much we can bring from across the headlines. And let's see the stories we brought your way this morning. CREDICORP launches flying
CTEM. CTEM tools enable organizations to continuously monitor and address vulnerabilities in real time. This proactive approach helps businesses stay ahead of cyber threats and comply with security standards. While CTEM systems are improving cybersecurity, managing them can be resource-intensive. Sectors like finance, healthcare, and government are adopting these tools to protect sensitive data. Democratize generative AI. Generative AI, which creates new content like text, images, or music, is becoming more accessible. This trend is enabling businesses and individuals to leverage powerful AI tools without needing deep technical expertise. Tools like DALL-E are already transforming marketing, entertainment, and design. However, as generative AI becomes democratized, concerns about copyright infringement and misuse of content are rising.
Innovation, development, and entrepreneurship in Africa.
IDEA TV shares and creates awareness about the activities, progress, challenges, and opportunity institutions, researchers, students, innovators, entrepreneurs, and policymakers, and how they contribute to development.
We promote STEM education, bring science to society, address formal and informal sector innovations, and address unique African developmental issues. We partner with local and global institutions and communities, public and private sectors, NGOs, and donors driving innovation in Africa. We communicate ideas. Our impact? We make evidence and innovation outcomes understandable, useful, and accessible to society. We translate questions, findings, and evidence into stories for communities and policymakers to understand and use. We build capacity for science journalism.
Architectures and advanced encryption methods are becoming the new norm. However, keeping up with rapidly evolving threats is a challenge, especially for industries that handle sensitive data like finance and healthcare. The cybersecurity market is expected to reach $248.26 billion by 2024. But the constant need for innovation and adaptation means businesses need to stay vigilant. Human augmentation. Human augmentation is enhanced.
It's good to have you back. You're still watching the Idea Morning Digest, and it's now time for the discussion segment. And of course, we're joined by Chris Ejiofor. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Our discussion today is about TINUBU'S UK visit amid security concerns, and Nigeria is once again at the intersection of diplomacy and domestic reality. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has arrived in the United Kingdom for a historic visit. His first, Nigeria's first in 37 years, hosted by King Charles III and Queen Camilla at Windsor Castle. While the visit is expected to strengthen ties in trade, defense, and economic cooperation with talks of a major financing deal, its timing has sparked serious national conversations. And this comes just hours after deadly explosions in Maiduguri, raising fresh fears about insecurity in the northeast and reviving memories of insurgent violence linked to Boko Haram. And this morning, we are not just looking at the visit itself, but asking deeper questions. What message does this send to Nigerians at home, and how do leaders balance global diplomacy with urgent local crises? And is this simply unfortunate timing or a reflection of broader governance priorities? Let's unpack this together. And it's everywhere on the internet, and people are talking about leadership in times like these. They often reduce it to should the leaders be here or should leaders be there? But what do you make of this? Let's create a foundation for today's conversation first.
Okay, it all tells one thing, as fingers at a particular issue, and the issue of our government not taking our citizens' life serious. For me, since it has been arranged that it has to be at, I think, in the UK, and I understand the Metropolitan Police and the rest, and the Windsor Castle have already planned for his visit. But then there's nothing wrong if we decide to diplomatically inform our diplomat in the UK that, look here, and even the king himself, that I had to cancel this based on the recent incident that happened in Maiduguri. And then shift it more. Even if possible, shifting for 48 hours, I think that is good enough. Because other presidents have done the same thing when they lost the life of their citizens. So if you shift it, it signifies that, yes, our leaders have the lives of our people at heart in governance. But going ahead and then sending the security chiefs that they should look at the bottom of what happened signifies that there's no regard for our people. As for me, should have shifted the journey. Yeah.
So when it comes to, because of your vast knowledge when it comes to diplomacy and international relations between countries in the world, we say that diplomatic relation is very, very important, and opportunities such as this, where the king of a country or the president of another country provides that opportunity for them to have an array of conversations when it comes to economic development, cultural exchange, and general development for the country. But we understand, if we look at the precedent recently, President Donald Trump has just postponed his trip to China. Those are the two major global economies, two most powerful economies in the world, both when it comes to militarily and when it comes to economic and diplomacy. So those two countries can be able to say that we have crisis on our own, while that crisis is not even out of their own intervention in another part of the world. But they have that, in some ways, that moral responsibility to say that we need to let this pause for a while and look at the issue that we have at hand right now. What are we missing in Nigeria? Is this something about our culture? Is this something about our tradition? Because other people have also said that perhaps Nigerians are just so interested in seeing white people and shaking hands with the king of your past colonial masters as well. Also, because sometimes perhaps they are still enticed by this invitation to come and just meet with the king and dine with the king and have conversation with the king that at the end of the day might go nowhere in benefiting the country. But if you have something as very critical as communities in your country, bomb blasts that we haven't seen in Borno for a long time, military barracks being overrun, and these simultaneous attacks that have happened in the past few days, back to back, and you do not have that responsibility to stay back at home in your own country because of a pre-scheduled trip that you have to go for. So is this something about our moral? Is this something about our tradition? Or is this something about how we take diplomacy in this country?
It's, for me, it's our lack of morality in governance. Because if you look at it, if you call it local, it call that even in their local environment, when something happens, if a neighbor lost someone, people continue to go there for more than 20 days. So it's all about leadership problem, as we have in this part of our world. Understand? So it doesn't really mean what matters is for me that if he has even postponed it and say, okay, just for 24 hours, it's okay. And later you can go on ahead with your trips. But then, I think the issue should be the issue of morality and empathy. All this go together. You understand? So when the governance it tells about the people, going there to go and shake, you understand? Then the question again happens, we say this way. Britain is our former colonial master. What have we achieved? What have we gained? Being their former colony. From them, from our master. So if I look at it, you understand, it's caused to issue of the diplomacy. Then what we're talking about is, aside being the first president to go there, I think in the last 7 years.
7 years.
Yes, understand, going there. I think the last person that went there was Bangida, when in 1989. Before him, as elected president. You go in there, but then you now ask yourself, what have we done? Aside being a member of the Commonwealth, Commonwealth observers have come here over years to come and observe our election. Have they sat down and said, look here, how is our former colony growing democratically? Because you have to ask some questions to your former colony. That's why they go. And that is the problem. You see the Sahel regions now having issue with France. Because it seems they have not gained anything from the former masters, or rather than economic enslavement. So this is coming to question. When we are looking for arms, during the time of these insurgencies, I think during Jonathan and the rest, they went to buy arms to Britain. We never got any arms from Britain. Even the U.S. after sanctions as well. I think during the time of Obama, we never got the arms to fight insurgency in Nigeria. Rather, we have to go to local market to go and get shops. And that's where the question comes. I think then there was a problem of who went to purchase those arms. It was still under investigation of how we got the arms outside the normal convention of getting arms. So it boils down to what have we really gained diplomatically from our former master, which is Britain, aside going for conferences and the Commonwealth conference, understand? So but I think outside the present administration, I think TINUBU has gone there, the president has gone there. 2024 he was there, but as outside state visit anyway. He was there before election, you remember, in the Chatham House, went to Britain. All those are not state visits, so we're not counting them, you understand? But then, for him to have gone there now, you see, it's time for Africa to sit back and look at their progress with their former colony, assess the economic gains that they have got out so far with their former colonies, and then look at them and reassess again. You understand? Nobody is saying that you don't have a diplomatic channel under which you have with countries of interest. But then, diplomacy have gone beyond that. Diplomacy means that what is the advantage you have? Is it economic advantage? Is it military advantage? Is it military cooperation? All these are things you have to assess. To reassess now, to realign your foreign diplomatic missions and your foreign affairs, where you are heading to. What really is the benefit of such realliance with your former colony? So these are the issues on ground now.
But okay. I just feel like I have a contrary opinion to this because, first of all, I like that the fact that Engineer Chris mentioned diplomacy and stressed on it, because diplomacy, I see that is not wrong. I just feel like, and I think you mentioned it, the timing, I think is what is, the timing was not, it's not like it is wrong. Because this must have been, arranged years before this happened, and it cannot be, halted because there is a bombing in Maiduguri. And I do not take this like as a disregard from them. I mean, they have other staff in the country, they have, I mean, we have the state government, we have other, you know, levels of government that can take care of some certain issues while the president is away. So I just feel like this kind of timing requires more explanation. They should have explained that, okay, this is the reason. I guess that is where people got it, because Nigerians over time are used to, you know, there's this expectation they have of their leaders. If you don't show up physically, if you don't show up in real time, then something is not done. If I can disagree with you. We have tagged presence to empathy for a very long time, and I think we are getting that wrong. We are in the 21st century where technology can even help us, you know, meet with people, solve whatever we want to solve from wherever we are. So the president can be anywhere. And just to go back to what Engineer Chris said, this is not just a visit to go and chill, relax, and have fun. This is a strategic visit, and this kind of issue that is happening in the country can still come up in this kind of visit, and they are going to look for ways to, you know, solve the issue once and for all. So I think it is not a problem that the president is not around. The only problem I always have with Nigeria government and public communication rather is communication itself, and that's what brings public perception. That's why people are beginning to say, oh, the president needs to be here. If the president is here, if the president we know how our dignitaries and leaders move in Nigeria. They start rolling cars, rolling a convoy to that place, and then you hear, don't go to the market, pause for this second, then you stay how many hours on the road and you will not go to. So what is it going to Maiduguri to do when we have the military, when we have people that are answerable to him? So it's as simple as use technology and do what we need to do. But then you were going to say something.
I was going to counter that opinion, because that's perception. You mentioned it as something that is only peculiar to Nigerians. It's not only peculiar to Nigerians. The president is seen as the number one figure of the country. He's seen as the moral authority. He's seen as the military authority. He's seen as all and all for all citizens of any country. And should any major thing happen in the country, so because this is a major thing, maybe because we've seen too many deaths in Nigeria, we don't have value for it. But because when the Australia thing happened, the entire world stopped, and there were few people that were killed. I mean, every life is important, but because there were few people that were killed, Nigerians were like, so they can kill like 10 people and the entire world will stop, while Nigerians will die like in 200, in 300, and nobody will say anything in few months. So that's the perception of Nigeria. It's not only unique to Nigerians alone to want our president to be present. Even if you're not going there directly, there's a way, just like you mentioned, communication, there's a way you speak that people will feel that this president is feeling what the people are feeling. You don't just go on Twitter alone and say, I've directed the service chiefs to move to, what is it called? Maiduguri. The same thing the late Buhari did when he became the president. He said, I've moved all the service chiefs, let them go to Maiduguri. What has that achieved for us in Maiduguri? Of course, they are the ones that are supposed to do the job. The president will not go there and carry gun and say, oh yeah, let me look for the terrorists and go and shoot them. But there's a way you make your presence felt. I agree with you that he can continue to go with this, because in some ways we stand to gain more from this relationship should we get something there from the UK. But how do you communicate that? Just like you've perfectly mentioned, do you communicate that even while you're not even here? There's a way your presence is felt that is missing with every past Nigerian government. I must say that, because there's this standing that they should have with their people, the way they communicate with them. Remember when President Obama killed Osama bin Laden, the way he came out to speak with them, the way he made them feel like this is something that we did together, and people are contrasting it with the way Donald Trump killed al-Baghdadi, and he said, oh, al-Baghdadi is dead, and people are like, oh, you're not even making us feel. So that is how people feel. There's just, you need to cater to people's emotional needs as well. In as much as you are there to lead, to give orders, to make sure things are right, you need to also cater to that. Make them feel involved, make them feel seen, make them feel heard, make the national issue a priority. You are there, you are sending out messages, you are making calls. When the families of American soldiers die in another country, the president make calls himself. I wonder if the president we need to start seeing President TINUBU'S just sitting in his office holding his phone like this, like I'm making call. Just take his picture and send it to Nigeria. Nigerians will be satisfied that our president is making a call to the families of those that have been affected. So all of these things, just like you mentioned, perhaps they need to sack the people that are in charge of communicating for the president, because we just see them lining up in the UK, welcoming the president. Well, you're supposed to protect him.
All the large entourage,
Large entourage. You're supposed to be there, protect him on social media, protect him, but you leave it to your, is it minors or what do you call them on social media, who have to take the brief
for their own glamour.
for you.
So that's it. Let me agree to disagree.
Yeah, just agree to disagree. I mean, we agree
Because you understand, it has become a norm for our leaders to continue doing the same thing. Because you see, when American came to our rescue when it comes to insurgency and decided to release a Tomahawk missile at Sokoto, it took more than 48 hours, if at all, to hear from the president and even the chiefs that this is what happened. Is it did you agree with America before such thing was done? No, nobody heard of it up till now, in a sense. So it has become what we are used to now, that the president can just go do. I agree, modern things, you can walk even right from inside the plane. I understand when they bought the plane about 150 billion, and then they use 50 billion again to do the electronic work inside it. No, they spend a lot of money so that you
bought the yacht.
You can from that plane give it
do anything
and do other things. But I agreed.
Yes.
They cannot tell that his own plane is better than Air Force One, which can do anything. And you understand, stop visa.
Yes.
But then the president can decide not to go. And even when things happen, I remember when something happened in Canada. It was G7. Trump came back. You understand? So it has become if other developed countries, the president can be empathic in order to come down when something happens, a national disaster.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong in our president doing the same thing.
Doing the same.
You understand? So, very understand. Even, yes, you can do certain things outside your place of work. Agreed. Even inside the plane, you can do it. When Netanyahu ordered for cleaning of Nasrallah, he did it while in United Nations. He just came out and signed electronically.
And the picture was taken. And it wasn't even a video. Just when you were talking about communication, was very important. Just a picture was taken.
Trust that have been overstretched.
So we should learn to show concern when it comes to, because you are leading human being. You don't play on people's emotion. But that's what is happening now.
Because everybody look up to you as the number one person. But I think we've established that. If we can move into, now they're in the UK. They're meeting with King Charles. I was going to call him Prince Charles. He's been the king since the Queen died a number of years ago. So what exactly, Engineer Chris, is Nigeria getting out of this conversation or this relationship that we're trying to rekindle or reestablish or reassert our bond as a former colony, now in an independent state, now a country that we can speak to each other as equals? So what are those economic benefits or military cooperation that Nigeria is supposed to get out of this wonderful, otherwise wonderful trip that he has made to the UK right now? Because people are looking at it. They're looking at the number of ministers that are there with him, the number of governors, that they're the entourage that are there, the glamour that we've seen, the state welcome that we're going to be seeing in the next couple of hours that is going to befit him and his wife as well. That is all beautiful, but what are the concrete things that the country is going to gain from the state's visit?
Let me quote the former director of Nigerian Ministry of International Affairs, Professor Keterewa. He said something a long time ago that Nigerians need to reassess our foreign policy. Because it seems our foreign policy seems to be very strong during the military than even during the democratic dispensation. I remember that's why we fought for South Africa independence. You can understand where our direction in foreign policy were going at that time. But now we don't really have a concrete foreign policy.
We've been saying we're non-aligned.
We're not aligned, exactly. We're not aligned. But then in foreign diplomacy, it must have an interest that you're protecting. And that's where you see, it seems anytime people talk about America and the Western world, they have interest that they are aligned to, and they don't play with that interest. Where is our interest lie now? We don't really say this our interest lie. Is it just going out to go and, just like you say, to go and shake with foreign head of states? No, it's beyond that. What are you going to gain? Is it culturally, economically, or defense pact? Yes, you have to understand. You can see even during this Gulf War, you can understand where Iran foreign interest lies. You can easily visibly see it. It doesn't hurt when you see a foreign policy of a country where the direction they are moving to. Aside being close ally of Russia, North Korea, and the rest. Iran, you understand? Even China. Let you understand that militarily they are packed, serious pact, and economically too. But where do we land? We are saying we are not aligned. It must align ourselves to somewhere. That's the about modern diplomacy. I'm saying because it's in those days we're talking about when we have a unipolar, only Russia and America as the major powers. Yes. You can say you are not aligned. These days you must know where you are, where benefit is. Understand? So that's the problem. So we should look at our foreign policy again and again, and then now believe where we are aligned to. Is it the culture? Okay, if you are saying you want to remain as non-aligned, but then you must have benefits. We are fighting insurgency now. We don't have the military hardware and all of it all to fight insurgency. Then who are you going to call to assist you? You must have where you are aligned to and countries that are in sympathy with you, or you have any diplomatic agreement with to come and maybe rescue you if you have such issue. Otherwise, we have fought insurgency for more than close to 20 years now, if not more than, and nothing is happening. And that insurgency is growing tentacles beyond what we envisaged. So it's the now issue of now we have to look at our foreign policy and look again. We have Minister of Foreign Affairs sit back with the people in government and say, look here, where is our direction, foreign policy direction, and then struck it and see, know where we are really aligned to, and see the benefits. So that's me.
Well, some might also criticize that move because Nigeria has been somehow non-aligned for a very number of years, and somehow people are saying that benefits us because we're not seen as antagonizing one or being on impact with another country. But we see that the world is not longer a unipolar system, or it's now a multipolar system where we have different blocks of powers around the world. And right now, we're seeing the BRICS. We're seeing that's the cooperation of different countries' economic interest that has brought them together. We see issues such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We're seeing the G7 being aligned. We're seeing the ASEAN countries for the Asian countries. And we're seeing also the Western aligned countries when it comes to Canada, North America, and Western Europe as well, aligning themselves for economic reasons. European Union, that has been there for a number of years. While we might say that we don't want to align ourselves militarily with any country because of our own national interests, we don't want to have military base, we don't want to have any military commitment with other people that would require Nigeria to deploy their forces to serve the interest of global powers. But we can also have military relationship that ensure that we get arms when we need them, we get intelligence when we need them, and economic relationship as well that align with BRICS, that align with some other multipolar systems that we're now making the wave around the world right now. But some other people would also criticize that system, that let us just focus on what we're doing right now. Because we're seeing the United States reassert its dominance in the world right now. And anybody that the United States sees that is not towing their line or going and seem to be even perceived to be going another way, they are heavily attacked. We saw how South Africa is being attacked because of their alignment with the BRICS, and also how they've also criticized Israel with the genocidal war that they are fighting and some other things that they are doing. So we see that even with the president right now, Donald Trump, he's leveling tax against tariffs against all countries in the world, blindly doing that. Even the islands that are populated by penguins, it's leveling tariff on them. So how do we ensure that within this midst of America reasserting its power, we see the war happening in Ukraine, we see the war happening in the Middle East, we see how it has kidnapped the president of Venezuela, how it's also encircling Cuba and refusing petrol and some crude oil going into those countries. So America has that overwhelming power, it still has the teeth to bite. So how do we ensure that we're not running foul of America's dominance in the world while we're also pursuing other economic interests? Because we understand that our economic interest does not lie with the United States alone. We need to pursue other interests. So how do we balance this? That's the question I'm trying to ask, to ensure that we're not falling too much on one side, and we're also seeing that America is also, we're telling America you're a partner of choice at the end of the day. We're not neglecting you or alienating you from our own system.
It's just like you can visibly see what is happening. We have invited America to more or less to assist us in terms of surveillance and the rest. Not yet boots on ground, but then you can start just for surveillance purposes and the assistance for military. There are here about over 200 military men on the US and ground now. And at the same time, we are learning to BRICS. You understand? Just like what you said. You understand? We should be, you see, in terms of international alignment and realignment, we should be in a sense, because if you are doing that at the BRICS, more or less, which countries are the more or less championing the issue of the BRICS? It's more or less China and Russia. You understand? And that is as opposed to Americans' interest. So if you are aligned to American interest at the end of the day, for just coming here alone, before you know it, they start putting their military base here, and you can't say no. You understand? So in that case, who are you? You are in between the deep sea and the blue sea. You understand? Then you have to mention this is where you are actually aligned to. If you want to go to BRICS, remain in BRICS. And even it's got some countries who are members of BRICS, like South Africa, are going to look at towards the end of the day. You understand? Because then, like I said, America has more or less asserted their power when it comes to economic dominance and the rest, and military dominance. So many countries are now looking at, how can we fully realign to America, and more or less partially be looking at BRICS. But BRICS, more or less, like say, they're all about economic blocks and what interest. But for us, what's happening now is you cannot face one, be in one direction and say, look here, I'm talking about economic interest without military power dominance, because they all go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. We want President to be carted away at night.
So you must find a way of balancing all this to remain relevant in modern economic environment. So that's it.
Well, another question I want to throw to you, Engineer Chris, is the issue of political gain for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because for the last 37 years, we haven't had any state visit to the United Kingdom. Perhaps that's one of the reasons is that this is so huge. It's so huge for me politically that I cannot let it go, because he's getting that recognition, he's getting that welcome, he's also getting that prestige. I mean, if you're going to be reading his profile in the next 5 years now, you say he was also one of the Nigerian presidents that has visited in a long decade, has been able to visit the United Kingdom and also meet with the reigning monarch in the United Kingdom. So how do you think that will in some ways boost his political base in the country, I mean, leading up to the general elections that is coming next year?
It depends on what you call his economic team. That's why before you make such international move, you must sit back and work on your economic team. What are the relevance implications of your visit? What do we tend to benefit from such visit, and work it down. That's based on what we call diplomacy. The team that will understand, that will look at our visit to the president to UK. Do we want to achieve economic gains or military gains? Then based on that, you understand. But it's not that you see, the Britain is more or less. It's no longer more or less the Britain as we know it then. Now it's not when it comes to diplomacy. They have the British system of government more or less is, they are neither here nor there when it comes. They are more or less of self first. That's Britain. You understand? They don't think about their former colonies. How do they improve or whatever? You understand? So it's now needed for you and your team, the economic team, to say yes, this is actually what we want to stock in this particular meeting. Let us talk for economic independence. What we got militarily? How do we benefit from you? Just like you said. How do we get our hardware, military hardware, to fight insurgency? Then all these are things you have to discuss. Understand? But if you are just going there, for in terms of just to whitewash the entire movement, then eventually it doesn't make any sense in terms of modern diplomacy. Because you must have something that want to benefit from such visit, and these are things that must be very paramount. The economic team must have worked even with the ambassador there, the newly ambassador we have in Britain.
Yes.
And look at this are what we want to strike in this arrangement, and this is what we want to benefit, that will benefit Nigeria. It's gone beyond when you are going there for the sake of writing your own history.
Personally, I still want you to address what does President Tinubu benefit politically for himself when it comes back to the country leading up to the election next year? Because this is also a boost for his own.
What saying for himself is what to boost his CV.
Yes, it's the fact.
The is a different thing. But because we are not there. If we have been there, and these are vital questions Nigerians should be asking for we to let you understand, because you must know your policy direction, and Nigerians must key into it. Because that's why we talk about For almost how many years now, we have been changing economic policies that are not working because we lack direction. And that's the truth about it, that direction. And the economic team seems to, when you after 2 years, you should be able to reassess yourself. What have the gain? What are the gains of the masses of this country? What have they gained in our policies? Then, and you fine-tune whatever you are doing, which we are not doing.
Well, maybe the next political campaign they already visited the King Charles on a state visit and vote for him.
One thing I know about this regime is that they're always ready to defend their stance. That's one thing I know about this regime. President Tinubu will never come out and tell you that what you have said, oh, we have to rethink it. He came in with a structure and he's big on his stance, he's big on all of his structure and, I mean, all of his ideas and initiative he has brought with him when entering power. First of all, Nigeria has, when we talk about foreign policy, foreign diplomacy, Nigeria has, I think in government, what do they call it? Double Ds, the proactive, 4 Ds, the proactive 4 Ds, and which is diplomacy, which is, I think, demography, diaspora, democracy as well. And I think that is what, development as well. And I think that is what the president, and what I remember from one of the president's speeches, he said they are going to, Nigeria is still big on that 4 Ds, and they are still going, and they are going, this time around, they are going to work aggressively with that 4 Ds. And before this visit, I think that was what they pushed out, that they are going to work on this, and that is going to sort of attract foreign investment. Yes, it's more like an insular to attract foreign investment, that they want to move past the old approaches of, doing carrying out with the 4 Ds and see how they can move with it aggressively now, because Nigeria is aiming at how they can, and I think that's his stance on this visit, how they can attract foreign investment, especially going back to security. He has tagged it to security as well. They attract foreign investment and see how they can, buy equipment and do all of those things. So I think to him, he has a strategic way forward with this visit, so nothing can. The team, I think that is where the problem is. But critics are only right to come out. Everybody's point is valid at the end of the day, because, I mean, you know where your shoe is hurting you. To come out and say, we still have questions about this, because Nigerians want to feel the benefit quickly. While we are looking at outside, we should think of how we'll settle our immediate problems. But I think I still think, let's rely on that hope in the title of the agenda, renewed hope agenda. Let's just rely on that hope.
Well, going back to the economic gain that we can get out of this, we understand that gone are the days where United Kingdom used to rule the world. It was once the world hegemon power, ruled many countries, even colonized the United Kingdom, and had that massive economic leverage all around the world. But we've seen that power diminish right now. The UK is ranked the 6th largest economy in the world today, and we've seen most of its industries as well has been also shipped away. Its car industries, its also manufacturing industries has also ebbed away over the years, and mostly the country is now majorly a financial center for the world. So what are those economic benefits that Nigeria can get really? Are we talking in terms of technology? Are we talking in terms of sharing of intellectual property knowledge or research that has been done in different institutions? Because when it comes to really trade, there's little or as little that we can get substantially compared to what we can get from other major powers in the world. So what exactly is given the considering the position of the United Kingdom right now as the 6th largest economy in the world, and mostly a financialized economy rather than a producing nation, and they are also trying to bring back production to their own country as well, as much as Nigeria is trying to I was going to say revive, but we never had. I'm trying to build ours in the coming years.
Just like you rightly said, the United Kingdom has more or less shifting their economic powers, shifting ground when it comes to more or less, just like you said, they are going to more or less a financial hub for other countries rather than reproduction of sand. Look at it. I think we used to have the British Leyland Motors and Vauxhall and the rest. I mean, we don't have many of them in production now. And then, at the time, they were the recent assembly plants in Nigeria were more or less British dominated. And at the time, they more or less fizzled out. think France bought pan and the rest. So now, so if you are going there, as I say, you must marshal out what you really want to gain by such visit and where you want to strike the deal with the British government, and in terms of bringing in economic prosperity to Nigeria, from that area. But knowing the fact that they are not no longer what Britain used to be when it comes to production. You understand? So you don't want more people do there now. More or less, you're like about financial hub. People go in there to make sure that either whatever they get there remains valid when it comes to finance, and then they're turning it back to the former colonies. So more or less, what we should be doing now is making sure that when they are coming back home, that just like you said, they should come back with a lot of striking a deal to bring back, if it's a way of they helping us or having what we call a bilateral arrangement whereby we run a particular company, or they can get knockdown parts for any of their old industrial areas. We can something to substitute our reliance on their parts. But Britain doesn't hardly go into parts now, more or less, and they too are even diversifying, even taking some of the deals. Like you see the deal they want to have with the president of Ukraine on the defense. So many of them are shifting the ground. So if we are going there, we should have actually a pre-knowledge of what we want to strike in terms of that diplomatic, more or less, visit, or what we can get out of it. So for me, I think the only thing for us to go is the cultural, more or less, is like more or less a cultural advantage of what we have been having with Britain, which is Commonwealth Games and the rest. Yes. You understand? So, but it should be beyond that. These days, it should be, for the president going there with his team, it should go beyond what means that felicitating with our old colonial master by having this thing, but rather that it should be based on economic advantage or the mutual advantage of either of the two nations, what we can benefit from each other. But the other politically, they can even, because we are still at our nascent stage when it comes to democracy, agreed, because we have not taken any leap. We are still cycling. So if they can even accept, help us democratically in terms of our democratic structure, to help us build our structures here on ground. And that one is okay, if they can do that, but Britain is, I know, they are not, that's it, they are more or less, their own diplomacy, they can still come out to come out and tell you this is where we are going, and this is how I want to help you. That's Britain, in our sense. So it's you now to know what you want from them, and strike the deal on what you want from them. Yes.
Exactly. Do you still have? Can I ask a question? Go ahead. Okay, because I'm seeing we are running fast of time. Lastly, we know that Nigeria has a huge diaspora community in the United Kingdom. It's as though people are going to Lagos when people are saying I'm going to the United Kingdom. So what do you think the president should, or aside from the state visits, the ceremony, the conversation that's going to be had in the coming days, what should the president do with the community of Nigerians living in the United Kingdom? What are the things that we can benefit from them? Because we have a Nigerian Diaspora Commission, an agency that looks into Nigerians that are living abroad. What can they do back to the country? How can we also protect them while they are also in that country? So how do you think the president can use that leverage of hundreds of thousands of Nigerians that are living in the UK? I mean, in the Conservative Party as well, is it the Conservative Party where we have Kemi Badenoch as well, who has a Nigerian ancestry, or ancestry is even too long. She has a Nigerian parent. Although she hasn't really given her allegiance into the country, she's been there in the UK. But I mean, that aside, what should President Bola Ahmed Tinubu look into to the diaspora community in the United Kingdom?
See, he has to. I think through the Diaspora Commission, which I think Abdul Abid is doing a great job there. He has to maybe have a session with our diaspora community in the UK, and then reassure them, because all what they need is the reassurance that back home things will get better. That's all what they need. Our diaspora input so far is over 20 billion yearly. What to get from our diaspora all overseas, you understand? So their commitment, Nigerian diaspora commitment, in terms of nation building, and the remitting money back home is great. It's huge that the country don't play with your diaspora community. Just like India does. India diaspora community rakes in over $30 billion every year. And so Nigeria should do same. But then the fact remains that the diaspora community are expecting much from the country.
And sometimes to the president.
Yes,
because we see protests, we see
yes,
when Narendra Modi is going to the UK or going to another country, you see the flags being waved all around. The diaspora communities are coming. When you see President Xi Jinping of China, even Donald Trump coming to another country, you see Americans go there. For Nigerians, we feel in some ways we feel our own response is a protest
because they're expecting more from back home. Even they want to come to go. So during the election,
I was going to play devil advocate, right? Even though we're expecting more. In some ways, still be patriotic enough to say that, let me just go and sit down. Even though I'm going to say what is going to criticize the government, at least let me just participate in that ceremonial.
Yes, you can be there. But
we shouldn't be perceived negatively from outside the world.
They are not happy and they cannot hide it.
Because you need to reassure them that the home front is working. And they want to see that. No, people believe that when the home is good, they don't even mind coming here twice a year. But because these days, some of them will stay 10 years without coming home. Because there's no security, none of them. So all these things are haunting them.
Will not bring them
so
this year.
You need to reassure them that your government is working. And really, they need to see it. That's the only assurance I have to do with that.
Well, thank you very much.
We've said a whole lot. We've said much about this issue. But that's the much we can bring on the discussion segment to you this morning. But stay with us because we're bringing up what's trending.
Facebook wasn't the first thing I built. I also built chat systems and games, study tools and music players, and I'm not alone. J.K. Rowling got rejected 12 times before she finally wrote and published Harry Potter. I don't know how to build a dam. I don't know how to get 1 million people involved in anything. Well, let me tell you a secret. No one does when they begin. Ideas don't come out fully formed. They only become clear as you work on them. You just have to get started.
Number 3, sustainable tech and green computing. With data centers now consuming around 1 to 1.5% of the world's electricity, efficiency has become critical. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are racing to power their data centers with
universities and research in Nigeria and across Africa. We have at least universities and research in Nigeria and across Africa.
We have at least 270 universities and over 66 research agencies in Nigeria alone.
Apart from graduating students, we don't know what comes of these institutions in terms of research to support our development. Does IDEA TV also shine light on innovation and policies of ministries, as well as innovation from the private sector?
It does all that. Also, it advocates for voiceless entrepreneurs and artisans. It also promotes STEM education for our children.
They have also trained many youth corpers and interns in their only 2 years of existence.
What is STEM education?
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and IDEA TV has programs that support these for our children.
OMG! Are they based here in Nigeria?
Yes, their head office is in Abuja.
Are they on YouTube and other social media platforms, or are they only on pay TV channels?
Yes, you can find IDEA TV on YouTube and other social media platforms at IDEA Television.
They have Nigeria Broadcasting Commission's license and will soon be available on some pay TV channels
such as DSTV, GoTV, StarTimes, or SL channels.
The founder is a Nigerian in the diaspora, and he came home to establish IDEA TV and other IDEA projects.
I heard that he has done a lot from overseas to support research and innovation in Nigeria and all over Africa.
Let's share this important information and make it go viral so that people will know about it.
Right, welcome back, and it's now time for what's trending. Let's see the stories we have here. Senegal have been stripped of their 2025 African Cup of Nations title, and the trophy has been awarded to Morocco. It has been announced by the Confederation of African Football, CAF. A quiet, remarkable ruling has handed Morocco the title after the final on January 18, 2026 turned into chaos in Rabat, Morocco. 2 months on from the unbelievable final, Morocco are officially champions of Africa after host Morocco were awarded a penalty kick late in normal time in the final. The players of Senegal walked off the pitch in protest with the support of their head coach. Senegal's players eventually went back onto the pitch, and Brahim Diaz missed the penalty kick as the game went to extra time. Senegal would go on to win the game 1-0 and be crowned AFCON champions, but Morocco were furious and launched an official appeal against the outcome of the game. The appeal has been successful, and CAF have ruled that Senegal was declared to have forfeited the final, with the result now being recorded in the history books as a 3-0 win for Morocco. Well, we did.
This is because it's really surprising. Sorry, I'm
no,
going
go ahead,
because
please.
this is really been trending online. We ended the AFCON match last year with what was it called? Senegal emerging the winner, and most Africans were happy. And now we're seeing it being overturned by the Confederation of African Football because of an appeal case that has been heard in favor of Morocco. But what actually led to that was a punishment that has now been levied on Senegal for walking off the pitch while a penalty was awarded to Morocco while they were still playing for, I think it was the quarterfinals or so. The matches leading to the final, they walked off all the pitch because of a penalty being awarded to them, and it led to around, I think, 15-minute delay for that. So that was not put into question. They continued the match, and they went into finals, and they won the final match. And when that happened, they were declared the winner. Now, months into that, an appeal case has now been heard, and the case is now resolved. And to say that because of the action that was taken, it's against the Article 82 and Article 84 of the CAF rule that guides tournament regulations and activities when it comes to the football, and they said that went in violation of that. So that is why they have overturned the victory, which was 1-0. Now it is now reading as Morocco 3 and Senegal 0. But Senegal as well has reacted to this and said that this is they've called it unfair, they've called it unprecedented, and they've also called it a shame for African football. And they also vowed that they're going to also take legal action against it, while the Confederation of African Football is also requesting them that they should return their trophy, they should return all of the the title that has been given to them, and so that Morocco can, it has really raised so many emotions on social media to say that this has already been decided. Why would you go back to overturn something that has already been done? If you were going to give them punishment, you should punish them accordingly, not just to take away the win away from them when it has already been decided many months ago. So a lot of people have different opinions with it. Well, we're still going to see this being appealed by Senegal, and we're yet to see what exactly this is going to be. But for football lovers, this is really a heartbreaking story. But for Morocco, I believe this, in some ways, they are being uplifted right now, to being encouraged to see that they can actually now retain the title. But for most Nigerians in this country, say whether you give it to Morocco or you still give it back to Senegal.
We're the ones on the internet.
Senegal, we still believe that Senegal won, and Senegal is still going to be the country that we're going to regard as the country who has won this AFCON in 2025. So we're yet to see what's going to happen.
Because first of all, I was thinking football matches thrives on finality. I mean, when everything is said and done, everything happens on the pitch. You know, people once fans celebrate, once medals are given, history has been made, and memory has been made, history has been written, and all of those things. So coming out to see them altering memory, because to me they are altering a lifetime memory, because this football match it can be regarded now into history as one of the most talked about football matches, and I think they have just completely altered memory, and altered the whole fun of the whole the match. And I understand where discipline comes in. I understand that this is discipline, but you cannot have players walking up during a final, no matter how emotional that moment is. So I understand where this is coming from, but because somehow the CAF may target as it's going to set a bad precedent for people, other players
and
that are coming up, young players.
Perhaps punishment should be leveled against them, but to overturn
it, I think that's where the problem is, because you have just created you've created confusion, you have created tension, you have created problems. If we even want to go back to how Diaz missed that what do they call it, the penalty. It was under pressure. Yes, he missed that penalty under pressure, and the moment was, I think that moment was supposed to, we were just supposed to tag it as one for football history, because there are always moments. There's one thing with football. The thing with football is that there's always a moment to hold on to, but we know that human side of the game has entered. You get sentimental, aspect have entered, and is turning the whole game. But now I think the entire narrative of the whole game has been erased, and which is not so good. Why is the decision coming months after? The confusion, the tension, everything happened right there on the pitch before everybody's eyes. But why is it coming later? So I think that's where the problem is. But it also puts Morocco in an awkward position too. They should know. It also puts them in an awkward position, because yes, we are champions on paper, you are champions, but in the minds of people, I mean, like you said, in the hearts of people, the hearts of football fans, you are not champions. But
indeed, I must say that when it comes to legal matters and investigation, it really takes time.
It really takes time, yes.
And that's why you should also need to put into consideration what's going to be the verdict at the end of the day. So we see some investigation happen in different clubs in the European Union, and for sometimes they do some investigations. Some people are suspended. Some people are suspended from playing in certain clubs. So that takes time for them to get it done. But if we have something as critical as this, perhaps more attention should have been put into it, or more.
And they should keep people on the loop, not just come
because it does seem to have happened out of the blue. People completely forgotten about it, because there were just few people that were following that legal battle that was going on.
CAF is able to win people's trust back, because this is mostly about trust. Even if they have, even if it's the right thing they have done,
Nigeria that won, and then they take it away from us. It will not, the continent will not contain us. The continent will not.
Okay, let's see the next trending story we have here. President Bola Tinubu has directed all political appointees under his administration who intend to contest elective offices in the 2027 general elections to resign their appointments on or before March 31st, 2026. Those affected include ministers of state, special advisors to the president, senior special assistants, personal assistant, director general, and chief executive officers of federal government parastatals, agencies, commissions, and government-owned companies, as well as other political appointees of the president. The directive, announced in a circular issued by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, is in line with Section 88(1) of the Electoral Act 2026 and the timetable released by the Independent Electoral Commission for party primaries ahead of the 2027 polls. The circular, signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and issued by the Permanent Secretary of the General Services Office, Ibrahim Kana, stated that the directive applies to all categories of presidential political appointees seeking to participate in party primaries or contest for any elective office. I think this is one of those decisions that, I mean, it sounds straightforward, but actually have some layers to it, because first of all, President Bola Tinubu is trying to enforce fairness, if we want to take it from the surface level, and you don't want people to just use government offices as campaign platforms. I think that's what he's trying to enforce. But if I want to be quite frank about this, I think because that's a real issue, first of all, to state that that's a real issue in Nigeria. But incumbency is very powerful here, because you have access to state resources, visibility, you have the influence, and all of those things can tilt elections before elections even, begin. And so I just feel like this directive is less about morality. I think everything happening now is tilting towards political. It's based on political timing. Whatever we are saying, it's more like it's being framed based on the political, timing. So March 31st. It's not just. I think that date was particularly, picked. But I just see how it aligns, closely with the electoral calendar set by the independent, the INEC. Yeah. And I think what this means to me is, I feel like this system is just shifting governance mode into campaign mode. We are so particular about campaigning. We are so particular about election in this country, and we forget about every other thing. So, I mean, I don't know about it, but if we want to be practical about this, if ministers and aides start resigning now, you are sort of creating gaps in the administration. Have they finished? They have to meet their set timeline. I mean, when they came into power, they were given a date where they will end their service. So why halting it because they need to stop based on, I don't know what the president is trying to do with this, or government is trying to do with it. But I just see new people coming in and taking new roles temporarily. I mean, the roles are going to be vacant. Or some acting. How do they call them? Acting head of, these parastatals agencies and whatnot are going to come in. I feel like it's just going to affect the flow of things for a while. But if they mean well, let's see where this directive is going to. I don't have much to say about it. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, interestingly, and that's why we said the system is not built around people. The entire structure is not built around people. It is built around a system. So whoever is leaving, we should not really be affected. It should not really affect whatever ministry or agency. While people are of different capacity and of different influence as well, we can but also understand that the system should function better than the head that is there. So that's on one side. On the other hand, the president has given this directive, and it is common with any political democratic system in the world that when you appoint a political appointee and you also want to vie for another election, unless you are duly elected and you want to be re-elected, nobody has a problem with that. But if you're a political appointee by government, a ministers or any secretary to the government or assistant to the government or the head of any agency, it is required of you to resign voluntarily. So, but he's compelling them right now because we see people, because it is not constitutionally required that you must resign, but it is also it's always mandated by the federal government to ensure that they allow these people to concentrate on the campaign that you want to run, while you're not leaving the responsibility that you should take for your agency behind, and you're not also using the money from that agency to run your campaign, or using your influence in that agency to run whatever campaign you have to do. And we see the issue of Emefiele as well, who were told also wanted to run for the presidency in 2023 general elections, and because the president cannot outrightly sack the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, it was very difficult for late President Buhari to tell him to just step down if he wants to do it. So he'd had that leeway to continue to run his campaign or underground and some other policies that he wants to do. And we saw how his agencies suffered heavily for it. Nigerians suffered because of a lot of misguided policies that he or misinformed information that he got, and then he rolled out some policies that affected Nigerians leading up to that electoral time in the country. So those are the challenges that Nigerians or the president want to prevent from happening. Because if you're a minister and you want to run for perhaps a governorship election, you're going to the state, you're running your campaign, your political parties are on your toes, you're thinking about your position, you're thinking about, there's less time for you to think about the work that you have to do in that ministry. So that's why they usually encourage to leave. So it's not alien, but the time, just like you mentioned, it's quite sudden, it's quite too close. But if we also look at the calendar for the coming election as also done by the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, we see that it is also very fast approaching. Primaries will start being conducted at different political parties. Campaign will begin outrightly, and people would have a lot to do to prepare for the coming election. So that's why I believe the president has given them till the end of this month to vacate their promises. The promises to vacate the premises that
the last story we have here, because we do not have enough time on our side. 2 suspected scammers were apprehended at Computer Village, Ikeja, Lagos, after attempting to defraud a phone dealer with a fake 5 million naira bank transfer for 4 iPhone 16 devices. The incident, captured in a viral video shared widely online, shows the suspect surrounded by a crowd after the fraudulent alert was detected. They reportedly tried to flee but were stopped by traders and bystanders. Tension escalated as the crowd demanded action, but the phone dealer intervened, urging calm and preventing a mob attack. He reportedly identified that one of the suspects may have played a lesser role and physically shielded both men until the situation was brought under control. The suspects were held as authorities were expected to step in. The incident highlights the growing use of fake bank transfer alerts in Nigerian markets, particularly in hubs like Computer Village. Traders are also increasingly insisting on verified payments before releasing goods, as cases of fraud linked to fake alert apps continue to rise amid economic challenges. I think this is a story that it explains where our society is going, especially with young people, especially with trends, especially with social media, especially with peer pressure. It brings a lot of things into consideration here. But first of all, credit to the phone dealer in in a place like Computer Village, where transactions happens every now and then. Most of this tension can rise quickly. Tensions can rise quickly. So he decided to calm the situation first, so he can understand what really played that, so he wouldn't wrongly accuse people of it until he confirmed that these guys were actually set out to scam him. That was when he informed the police. He was able to manage the situation. He chose to turn a violent situation that was supposed to be a big deal into a calm situation. But because we've seen situations like this escalating to mob justice, into jungle justice, and it always starts with small incidences, and then it escalates into big issues and results that we won't like. So I like the fact that there was control with this situation. But if we want to zoom out of this, the rise of fake bank alerts, let's even look at it beyond the crime aspect of it. It's about how trust, I like to talk about trust a lot, has broken down in our financial system, even on street levels, because Nigeria has over 100 million bank holders, and most of these digital transfers have become the norm. It has become our daily live thing. But people don't carry cash anymore like before. But we understand that the infrastructure for instant verification is always not reliable. It's not really reliable, and I think that is where the problems start from, because we have issues like network delays, we have issues like reverse transfers, maybe pending alert. Most of us have been in that situation before, where we make transfers and then it takes hours to verify. Sometimes if you meet maybe with somebody that calls you, my customer, they'll tell you, go, I will see it later. But for some people who do not trust you, some people who do not know you, you will start there for over 2 hours, 3 hours, and wait for them to verify the transfer. So I think these are the gray areas that scammers exploit, and some of them will say, oh, maybe the alert has not entered, it will enter later, and all of those things. But what is happening now with this is that traders are becoming their own banks, traders are becoming their own trust systems, because we don't trust in alerts again, we don't trust in our banking system, in our financial system anymore. You have to wait for confirmation, you have to do all of the check and balances yourself, you have to understand all of these things, and all of these things slows business and even survival for people. And what looking at the issue of these scammers, I think we have to tie it back to our economic issues too, Wale. We have to tie, like I said, we have to tie it with
for iPhone 16.
Yes, that's what we have to tie it to economic issues. Those boys are taking those when you think they are going to use it. Okay. They are going to sell it. It's because we do not. I mean, we have to tie it back. People are looking for any way to. Okay. Wale. People are looking for any way to feed, Wale. People are looking for any way to get money. And that's why I will still go to even peer pressures with young people, because those guys are young. It may be that they want to use the latest iPhone. I don't know what iPhone did with iPhone, but let me not go too far. Wale, what you?
Well, I think you've touched it extensively, but an area that I would like to emphasize on is the issue of mob justice and jungle justice. I will call it jungle injustice and mob injustice, because if that term is not allowed, I will compel it to make it so. Because our justice system is designed in ways to ensure that there's a principle of fairness and there's a principle of fair hearing that is disregarded when it comes to mob justice. And thank God for this shop owner that has decided to not take laws into his own hands or not allow other people. Because sometimes you just see persons by what's happening. They come into the scene and they create chaos or potentially kill this two lives. And in some ways, we do not give access for repentance. We do not give access or opportunity for people to have a change of mind or to be punished for what they've done and continue to have a life to live at the end of the day. Because our justice system, just like I mentioned, is designed to punish people. So we have laws, we have punishment for people, because we know that humans will run foul of those rules and guidance that have been laid out, and that is why we have different justice laws that have been put in place to ensure that when you do this, when you steal, this is the offense and this is the punishment that you get for it. Your life is not just cut short at the end of the day. But the more reason we are seeing people engage in such activities as mob injustice, like I want to term it, is because they've also seen the failure of our justice system, where people are being prosecuted. At the end of the day, you hear nothing about it. Or when you go to the police station, you just find out that they've bribed some police officers and they've been able to allow to leave. So they are not getting the punishment for what they've done, and they all feel emboldened another time to try their luck again in some other places where it might lead to their death, or they might even become successful and cut away somebody's hard-earned money at the end of the day. So that's what we're saying. Let the justice system work. Everybody involved in it should let it work so that we can all have a life to live. If these two young, I'm not calling them innocent, I was about to call them innocent, but these two young lives were cut short, God knows what would become of their family, what would become of them. And people say, oh, they deserve it, they know what was going to happen to them. That shouldn't be the order of the day in a country that is run by a democratic system. We should have a system that gives people fair hearing, gives people opportunity to present their own case before a judge and get adequate punishment as necessary, and not imposing a capital punishment on the streets.
Very well said, Wale. I think we've said much on these discussions. We've seen the discussion segment, we've seen across the headlines, and of course we've seen what's trending on social media. If you have things you'd like to share, the conversation doesn't stop here. Follow us, join the conversation, share your thoughts, share your ideas with us on all our social media platforms at Idea Television, and of course via our email. And like I always tell you, you can catch up with this segment and previous episodes of the Idea Morning Digest on all our digital streaming platforms, on YouTube and on Limex at Idea Television. And that's the much I think we can bring your way this morning. My name is Cynthia Basian.
I am Adewale Olashubon. It's been a wonderful morning.